This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good morning, Candace Breen. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
It's a great pleasure to connect with you. What part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in Rhode Island in the United States. I'm actually in Barrington, Rhode Island in the United States.
Yeah, I got to visit Rhode Island and we went over the bridge and we were on the military base. Yeah.
Newport.
It was Newport. I'm not good with names, but yeah, that was it. And we had food like right somewhere right there and we got to see the bridge. Oh, that was beautiful. Ooh.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah. So tell me, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this specific time in history?
Oh my goodness. There are quite a few. I'm an author as well. I'm an author, an artist. I also have a podcast show called Awakened Path.
Sweet.
I'm a minister, a spiritualist minister, and a healing minister. So I do all those things.
Wow. And what about this West African thingy? What about that?
Yeah, so my family, we originate in West Africa. My father's people were aboard the last slave ship that came into Mobile Bay illegally, and they started Africa Town. Those people on board started Africa Town, where my grandfather lived, and my cousins lived, and because it's quite an interesting story if anyone knows about the Clotilda and Timothy Mear, who was a captain who bet he was drunk one day and he bet everyone that he could bring in a bunch of slaves from West Africa illegally, right under the nose of the authorities. The slave trade had been made illegal during that time, but he wanted to make some money, so he made this bet. And so some people put up some money. He went to West Africa and he got some West Africans, and he brought them here illegally. And word got out that, hey, there's this guy, he's trying to bring in some slaves. He's trying to bring in some West Africans to make them slaves. So he snuck in, he had them switch boats, he burned the other boat. But the whole thing didn't burn. Actually, they found it. It's been there for years, but they found it, they made it public last year that here's the hull of the boat. Although it's always been there when it was low tide, but all the people in town already knew it, but the world didn't know it.
And now the world does know it.
Now they know. And so the people who put up money were given their portion of the West Africans and stuff like that. And then when word got around that they were looking for Timothy, he disappeared. And when the West Africans who were left at his property were just left there with no one. So they said, look, we're going to make our own town. And they did, using their own language and their own culture. And it's still today, Africa Town is still there in Alabama. It's still functioning, and they're having they're starting this program where they're taking descendants of Africa Town, the original people, to West Africa. My people are from Benin, and Cameroon.
That's amazing! Wow, you have a wealth of history there. Wow.
Well, it's very interesting, yeah, and so it's a very interesting story. It is.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it. The good thing with the podcast is it's an opportunity to immortalize stories. So I love when we get stories like that. Well, this is amazing. Now tell us then, you've been doing a lot of things around the spiritual side. Who did you learn those things from?
Well, I've learned, I mean, growing up, I've learned a lot as well. So I was always one, but I really didn't know that I was one, if you understand. My parents did a lot of black magic, which was not, they used their abilities for negative means. And somehow I did not get affected by it. So I used my abilities for good. At a young age, I was already a medium, and I didn't know what that was. But I knew that I was talking to people who had already crossed over. I was asked to do, and spirits would come to me and ask for favors, like help me send this message to this one, do this. And I was young, and I just did what they asked. And after, it affected me in school because there were a lot of people who called me evil and devil and stuff because they didn't understand they didn't understand my abilities and this world that I was a part of. So I tried to fit in with the Christian religions. I tried Catholicism. I tried Baptist. I loved being a Baptist because I liked singing. Right. And that was, and I was in 2 or 3 choirs, and I was an alto. So I loved singing, and that was my primary reason for being there, was because I was in the choirs and singing. But eventually that went sour when people found out about me and my abilities. And I remember the pastor told me, when I had revealed to him that I meditate every morning, he said, well, if you're not meditating on the Bible, then it's devil. It's devil stuff. And I said, oh boy. So I was kind of driven out of the various churches I had tried to be a member of. And then I just said, well, forget it. I'm just going to be myself. So I ended up, somehow Spirit led me to spiritualism, and led me to go and get ordained as a spiritualist minister, which I find so rewarding. I meet so many people, and there's no restrictions, and it's exactly what I am and who I am. And I've met so many wonderful people who have abilities as well, or who have been afraid to be who they are because of the societal views of who we are. And through my writings and sharing my own personal experiences, especially with things like abuse and stuff like that, it has helped so many people come forward and be who they are and not be afraid or ashamed anymore. And that's really what I really enjoy. I mean, people get put off when they hear Reverend Breen, and I said, you don't have to call me Reverend Breen. I mean, they get put off. They think I'm this, they automatically think I'm this Baptist person. I said, no, I'm not. I'm sorry.
You hold a doctorate as well in metaphysics, yeah.
Yes,
so you could call you Reverend Doctor, couldn't you, if you had to? Yeah.
Yes, and people do. I mean, when I go to speak, when I go and serve other spiritualists or spiritual churches and give the sermons and things, they usually call me Reverend Doctor, and that's okay. That's fine. But I don't want people to be put off with it and feel that they can't approach me, or that I'm this woohoo way up on a pedestal or something. And I mean, because I'm just as human as the next person.
So where's the best place for someone that's listening to connect with you?
Well, you can reach me at going to my website at www.candacenadinebreen.com. And I guess I'll spell that out for you. CandaceNadineBreen.com.
All right. Well, Candace, let's switch gears for a moment now. Let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Candace, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Running on the beach. Running on the beach is I like the water.
Which beach is this?
Well, That's a good question. It's a beach that I've never been to before. Actually, in my mind, this is the picture I see. I see beautiful water and white sand. I've always wanted to go to a beach that had white sand and nice, clear blue water.
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
Well, because I've always wanted to be a really good swimmer. And when I was thrown in the water as a child, that traumatized me, and I was not able to learn how to swim until I became a mother, actually. And I loved the feeling of my body in the water and the water around me.
How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
Well, definitely, because I like the freedom to just be. And in the water, I feel that I have that freedom to just be.
Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind with that memory?
Yes, please.
I love the fact that you have made what has been your challenges into your victory. And again, I mean, yes, you were thrown in and you were traumatized, but hey, you learned to swim, right? And then you embraced what the beauty of being in the water entails. And you said, going to school as well, you had a similar experience. So it's great to see how you are making, again, what was a challenge into something that can be used and then helping others as well. I'm guessing your children can swim, yeah? Or your child?
Yes, Oh, yes. Both of them love the water.
Well, there we go. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
When I was 12?
Yeah.
My favorite song? Oh, gosh. I know I was in love with Michael Jackson, so it was all things Michael Jackson. It was probably at that time. I would think it was Heal the World, maybe, at that time.
That definitely connects, right, with what you do.
Yes.
Right? Heal the world. Love it.
I love
All right, Candace. Well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form, so it's yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Candace?
I'm ready.
Candace, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes.
Are you married?
Yes.
You said you have 2 children. Do you believe in God?
The divine, yes.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
Or about 3 hours a week?
Yes.
What about screen time, the phone and of the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Oh, less.
If you had to share with us your own unique, real statement, a statement that represents who you are, Candace Breen, what would you say that is?
I am.
Love it. Candace, this was such a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Just be free to be you.
Love it. Just like Candace being in that water. Candace and Candace Nadine Breen, thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This segment has been brought to you by Amazel Enterprise.